Some of us aren't very tall, it's fine. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Aaron Morgan. I'm the Director of Bands here at WT Woodson High School. Thank you for joining us. The final group on stage is the high school Symphonic Band. The Symphonic Band this year is under the direction of Colonel Michael Colburn. Colonel Colburn, formerly of the President's Own United States Marine Band, is now the Director of Bands at Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana, and joins us this weekend. On behalf of all the directors in District 11, it is my pleasure to introduce Colonel Michael Colburn and the High School Symphonic Band.
Thank you so much for that warm reception, ladies and gentlemen. It is so great to be back here in Northern Virginia. You know, they say you can't go home again, but I beg to differ. This was home for me and my family for 27 years. In fact, we lived 25 years in Burke, and my kids are a product of the music system here at District 11, and specifically at Lake Braddock High School. So I'm very fond of this area. I have a very deep and intimate knowledge of just how accomplished the students from this region are, how dedicated their directors are. And I'll just start right off by saying I know what it's like to be a parent in Northern Virginia and trying to chauffeur your students through this traffic to the various events that you do. So thank you so much for that. We started our program with a march by John Philip Sousa, the Fairest of the Fair. As you might expect from my previous job, I've conducted a few Sousa marches, but this remains one of my favorites. It really is one of the most unique of Sousa's marches, and I'm so glad we had a chance to learn this together with these students. We're going to go now to another piece, a new piece by the American composer Ryan George. It has a Celtic title. The letters may look a little unfamiliar in the way they're combined in your program. Angafain, I believe, is the Celtic pronunciation. But it means the wild goose. And the inspiration for this music was information that Mr. George acquired about the bringing of Christianity to the Celtic Isles. And as is often the case when Christianity is brought to a new culture, there's a merging of existing values and beliefs. And that was certainly the case when Christianity came to the Celtic Isles. The Celtic culture believed in really the importance of nature. And so it should come as no surprise that it was elements of nature that they began associating with Christianity. And specifically, something that Mr. George found fascinating was how these Celtic Christians associated the Holy Spirit with the wild goose. The wild goose was very important to the Celtic culture. They admired its fierceness, its fearlessness, even its loud, raucous call, and the fact that it was impossible to catch. You know the phrase, the wild goose chase? Well, that was really a source of inspiration for the Celts. In addition to hearing sounds that are going to evoke the sound of the goose and nature in this music, you're also going to hear something that Mr. George learned about this culture, and that they believe that in nature one can find various places where you can become closer to the supernatural, to the spiritual realm. And they call these places the thin places. And so Mr. George, in this music, you'll hear this kind of chorale theme that is first stated by the horns, and then comes back over and over again for different instrument combinations. And each time you hear that chorale theme, it's this concept of the thin places that Mr. George is trying to convey. A few other things that you'll hear in this music, as you might expect, some Celtic drumming. You'll hear the sound of bagpipes, and you'll even hear a jig and a few reels. So we hope that you enjoy Ryan George's The Wild Goose on Gavay. So you folks by now have heard all about our canceled rehearsal on Friday and how particularly challenging it was for us to figure out how to put together a program. And honestly, the conventional wisdom is when you lose that much rehearsal time, you look for the easiest stuff on the program that you think the band can handle in that amount of time. But we had read through this work Thursday night and done a little bit of work on it, and it was by far the most challenging thing on our program. But I heard enough that evening to feel like I think these guys can pull it off. And so I decided to go ahead and roll the dice and see what happened. And we spent a lot of time working on this morning, and you can hear the progress that they made. But most importantly, before we came out here on stage, I told them to remember what Mr. George said about the Wild Goose and how it was fearless. And I wanted them to approach this performance fearlessly as well, and they certainly did. So how about another round of applause? I know by now you've heard a lot of thank yous that start to become repetitive, but that doesn't mean they aren't important. And I would be remiss if I did not thank Mike Lully and Aaron Morgan and Adam Foreman, who were also helpful to me in first inviting me to take part in this great festival, but also in terms of the logistical and musical support of this band you see on stage. So thank you very much to them, as well as all the band directors in District 11. As you heard me say at the beginning of the program, I've got so much respect for music education in this part of Northern Virginia. I have lived around it, lived with it, and have so much respect for the work that these great band directors are doing in this region. I want to say a word of thanks to the parents again. Again, I know that without your support and without you reminding these students why practice is important, why the arts are important, they may not be on the stage accomplishing everything that they're doing this afternoon. So thank you so much for your support as well. Yes, thank you. And last but certainly not least, I want to say another word of thanks to these fantastic students. I really kind of threw the gauntlet down with this program. The piece that you're about to hear is a little less complicated than the Wild Goose, but only a little bit. You're going to hear there are a lot of notes in this one too. But it's another piece that has got great energy and is a lot of fun, and I just knew from the moment I started working with these students that they had what it took to put this program together in short order. So guys, thank you so much for all your hard work. Finish this program off with a piece by the Mexican-American composer, Arturo Marquez. His Conga de Fuego, Nuevo, the Conga of the New Fire. This is a composer that came to the attention of many people thanks to the incredible maestro Gustavo Dudamel, who's the music director in with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. But years ago, when he was coming up through the conductor ranks, he led a youth orchestra, the Simon Bolivar Youth Orchestra out of Venezuela, that really took the world by storm. And several of the pieces that they played that gained them such international notoriety were by Marquez, his Danzón No. 2 and this Conga that you're about to hear. So I think it's a great way to wrap up this concert and this festival. I want to thank you so much for coming out to support all of us here today, and we hope you enjoy that you enjoy Marquez's Conga de Fuego Nuevo.